What the UFO? I'm Caleb. If you're enjoying the show and you're finding some value here or having a little bit of fun, please support us on patreon.com/WTUFO. We're only looking for $1 a month. If that's too much, we totally understand. Please do not support us. But if $1 a month right now is easy for you, please sign up to be a supporting member. It'll really help the show a lot, and we deeply appreciate it. Thank you so much. Patreon.com/WTUFO. What the UFO? I'm here with Renate Erdal. Hi, Renate. It's great to meet you.
Hi. Great to meet you too.
Renate is the leader of UFO Norway, and that is a volunteer organization collecting UFO information in Norway. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and I understand that in your private life, you are a construction project manager, and you serve in the Reserve Army. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
And how long have you been doing that?
Which one?
Well, I guess either.
I've been in construction for 20 years. Yeah, project management of construction projects for about 20 years. And this, in the military, I've been for, in reserves, I've been for 15 years.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Are you a captain? Is that, did I have your rank right there?
That is correct. Yeah.
Well, thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you.
I wanted to thank you also for spending this time with us today. I really appreciate it. I know you're far away. We had to coordinate the time zones. It was very kind of you. I also wanted to ask, how common is English speaking in Norway?
Oh, it's very common. We're very good in English. It's not like in the French and the German. They have they dub movies and they're not really that good. But Scandinavia is pretty good in English. Yeah.
Wow, I'm very impressed and very grateful for that. I like Scandinavia a lot, and I don't speak any of your languages, so thank you for speaking mine. It's very kind of you. So I guess we might as well get right to the fun stuff by asking, how did you get into UFOs, and how did you become the head of UFO Norway?
Yeah, I guess kind of have always had some sort of interest in this topic from, I guess as I was a kid and, X-Files and all that kind of stuff, growing up in the 90s. I've always been fascinated about it. However, then it goes up and down in valleys. And then there were a couple of years where I thought to myself, this is all, it all has a rational explanation. It's all, military stuff and so. And then it goes back and then new information comes up, new witnesses, and then you go, oh, okay, maybe it is something again. So it's been a bit up and down. And then around 2017, when the Luis Elizondo came out, and I watched Unidentified, is that what they call that? The series? Yeah, with the Chris Mellon. And I was watching that and I thought to myself, I got to get into this again because I've always been interested. And when I saw those people talking about it in that serious way and in that manner, all those witnesses, I thought, it's really something. It's not just hoax or natural phenomena. This is real stuff. And I didn't look back after that. Yeah.
Go ahead.
And I became a leader of UFO Norway because I became a member. And I went to a couple of meetings, and and then we had a vote, and I said I would like to be leader, and that was it.
So, congratulations. Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about the scale of the organization, the scope of your admin, what kind of things you do?
Yeah, so we're not a huge organization. In Norway, we're only 5 million people. So UFO Norway is about 300 members.
Okay.
And we are about like a handful of people who work in the administration, I would say. And we're all volunteer people. We have our own jobs and lives. So we're all just doing this on our spare time and getting no money or anything. We're not in this for the money, as most people are not in this for the money. So and we coordinate and we have meetings once a month where we coordinate and talk about things that new information about new reports that have come in and things we need to check and so and then also we have a couple of people who are not necessarily in the meetings, but they assist and contribute in other ways, sending out a magazine, because we have a magazine, actually a physical magazine, that we send out 4 times a year. And we get reports. We're the only report central in Norway. So when people see a UFO, this is where they can report it. Of course, they can report it to probably to MUFON or some, but it is the UFO Norway that has the Norwegian organization, the only one. So people can come in there and report what they see. We also have a Facebook page where we are very active. We have over 2,000 members, but not everyone is a paying member. So yeah. So we're trying to figure out, because people want to put out all the observations there, while we wouldn't want that, because we want to verify and have some kind of control before we put it out, because, you know, sometimes it's really just satellites that people see. So we're trying to keep out the simplest of cases so we can exclude them before presenting them to other people. So we have a couple of people who are very interested in trying to solve UFO observations. I personally am not one of those, but we have had a case now in last week where there was a photograph, and they have spent a lot of time trying to analyze and figuring out if it was a helicopter and all kinds of sorts of things. So we have a lot of communication going back and forth, trying to control each other and see, is this right, is this wrong, you know, trying to verify if it was a real UFO observation or not. Yeah.
So when a report comes in, you log the data about that and keep track of the information, like who reported it, where, when, what they saw, etc. But then it sounds like you also do some follow-up to figure out what bucket to put that report in terms of what you think. Is it truly unidentified? Is it a case you can resolve, etc.?
Exactly. And actually, the ones that are unresolved are actually fewer. So that we don't have like many cases that we spend a lot of energy and resources into trying to figure out what it was. Normally, we kind of figure it out pretty fast, and sometimes we don't. And as always, lack of data, right? People saw something, but we don't have the data, and we are missing information from the witnesses, and you know, the normal kind of stuff. So yeah, that's how it is. We get about 2 reports every week.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you have?
But mostly it's lights in the sky.
Okay.
Not craft in the sky, but lights in the sky. Yeah.
Okay. And do you have a ballpark guess about what percentage you end up calling unidentified?
Not yet. That was a good point. I'm gonna write that up. So I'm gonna do that.
Fun.
Yeah.
Happy to contribute. Well, while we're here, I should just tell people you can check out the website for this organization at Norsk UFO Center with an S.no. So NORSKUFOSENTER.no. Online, it's website, and the X account is at NUFOS_official. Is that right? And you said Facebook is bigger for you. So if they wanted to visit you on Facebook, what would they do?
I guess they would have to write UFO Norway in the search column on Facebook. Yeah.
That stands to reason. Okay. People know how to do things like that. Okay. Oh, and one more question. Can people get that quarterly magazine periodical elsewhere in the world or only in Norway?
That's a good question. No one has ever asked that question before. I think anything's possible, but of course it would be more expensive to send it as far as some. Yeah, and it's also in Norwegian, so I don't know how very useful it would be, to be honest.
Might be a limited appeal. Okay. Norwegian speakers of Massachusetts might be interested. Okay. I don't know where the largest Nordic population is in America, but I think it might be the Midwest, like maybe Wisconsin, I'm told.
I thought it was Minnesota, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
It would make sense that you would gravitate, your people would gravitate toward the colder parts of America. Okay, so that's a general overview of the organization. And I wanted to zoom out a little bit and just ask, what is UFO curiosity like in Norway generally? Is this a big subject of interest? Is it pretty narrow?
It is pretty narrow, I will tell you. Yeah, it's few people in Norway are interested in this topic, unfortunately. There's a lot of stigma connected to this topic. You know, there's a lot of information in America and also in Europe. And if you try to start a topic about this, people will look at you and they will not understand what you're saying, because they haven't heard about, David Fravor. They haven't heard about the hearings. They haven't, Grush, all these kinds of information. They don't know about it because it's not, the mainstream media doesn't look into it. However, they did look into Grush when he was testifying. That was actually on the main news. I was very happy about that. And it was actually told in a very neutral way. No laughter, no nothing like that. Our media is a bit more grown up than your media, if I could say so myself.
I was going to say that sounds better than how it landed in America. Looking a little more broadly into Norwegian history with UFOs, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about the Hallin Lights. And did I pronounce that roughly correctly?
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, the Hallin Lights, they have been around for at least for many, many years. I was actually there in 2004 in regards to two of the professors that have been leading this project was actually teachers in where I went to engineering school. So
cool.
They asked me if I could, I don't know, I just knew some people, and they asked, do you want to come to science camp where you can educate kids from, in the 9th grade and such. So I went up there and I didn't see anything, but I have been there twice on this science camp. And they have this blue container and they film this area. And people have seen craft, people have seen real craft and UFOs in Hallin. But then again, they've seen that, many places in the world, many places in Norway. So I'm unsure whether this is it real craft or is it a natural phenomenon? I'm leaning towards natural phenomenon on the Hallin Lights. I am. I'm not very confident. I don't have all the answers, but that's what I'm leaning towards. Yeah,
I heard you.
Project, and we don't have a cooperation with them because we're very separate. And also previously, I think they have a little bit of concern being, kind of related to UFO Norway, because it's kind of, we're more like these are extraterrestrials. No, but at least most of us, whereas they are, what is this? Is a natural phenomenon. So we're not one organization, even though we're completely different organizations, but we have, people contacts, and we've been in contact. So yeah.
Who was this other organization? They're one specifically focused on Hallin?
Yes, there's a Hallin organization. So, and they have their own website, and yeah.
Okay, so, interesting.
Yeah, it was even a documentary, but that's long ago. It was 20 years ago. It was on the Discovery Channel. It was funny though, because I was actually on the documentary for 2 seconds, and it was funny because they clipped it, and they added the movie, and they added it so that it appeared like I was seeing something in the sky, but I didn't. But they kind of edited it, so it's funny though. I was sitting in the sofa watching it, and all of a sudden there I was, and I was like, okay.
There you were witnessing something you never saw.
Yeah.
Great. I heard you say in another interview that the lights tend to increase during the winter. Is that accurate?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I was the one who said that. Could be, but I'm not sure. Maybe you're right, but I don't remember saying it.
Okay. That's I put that in the column when I heard it, of maybe evidence that there's some natural underlying phenomenon that changes as the weather changes.
Yeah.
I'm also curious, while we're nearby this, if you know anything about the Swedish ghost rockets UFO story. That's something I only know a little bit about.
Well, it's the Scandinavian ghost.
Oh, excuse me.
I'm just it was actually I think it was most in Sweden, but it was also in Finland and Norway. So we did have that. Yeah. And at the time they called them rockets because they didn't know what else to say. Then again, rockets don't stop in mid-air and change direction and go the opposite direction. So yeah, but there were a lot of those in the 40s, and a lot of them actually landed or fall in the water. There actually been some searches for them. Quite this summer, they were looking for one of them. People saw it coming down. But most likely, in my opinion, if this was a genuine UFO, you go underwater and you travel on. So I don't think it was necessarily crashes, just travels. But there was a lot of information. A lot of people saw those things, and then it stopped.
It stopped. Interesting. So that's kind of Foo Fighters era, 1940s, and
Yeah,
then 50s, and then it trails off, or not even in the 50s.
maybe not. I'm not sure. We
Okay.
we have another one in the organization. He's very good at the Norwegian history and all that kind of stuff. I just know of it. Yeah,
Okay.
it's not something that happens now. Ghost
Well,
rockets.
without expecting too many details, then, are there any other highlights of Scandinavian UFO history that come to mind for you? Things you think about?
Yeah, we have the UFO Ring. If you've heard about that one.
The UFO Ring.
Yeah, we have a print in the ground. What was it, 60 in meters in diameter? I'm not sure. I can find the details. But anyway, it's a huge ring and there's an imprint in the ground and it's been there for 40 years and it's still there.
Huh.
So no one actually, some people say that they saw a cone-shaped UFO. Someone said they saw an egg-shaped UFO in the vicinity of this area. But this huge ring just appeared and lots of things happened. Your dogs were barking and were very restless. And also the army was actually there, tried to make an imprint in the ground, and they couldn't do it with the 40-ton helicopter, no print. So they calculated how much this actually had to weigh to actually make that imprint, and it was quite heavy.
Interesting.
And yeah, and it's also no roads there at all. It's an island, so you can't drive up there with a car or anything.
Huh.
It just all of a sudden on this huge field, there was this huge round circle, oval circle. And yeah.
And this would have been early 1980s?
Yeah,
40 years.
yeah, in the 70s, I think.
Okay. So there's a time before this ring where there's no ring in the field, and then
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
the
And it was
sightings, and then the ring.
Yeah, it was also in the winter time, so they could see the snow had disappeared around. It was in 1975. Yeah.
Wow. That is
Aspen.
very interesting.
Yeah.
And it's very unusual to have a case that still has physical evidence you could go check out yourself.
Yeah.
Is that a popular tourist destination?
I don't think it's very popular because it's a little bit off the beaten track, or what you call it. You have to know where to go, and it's not along a highway.
Have you ever visited?
I should absolutely have gone to visit, and I haven't done it yet. So yeah.
Sounds like work, but
Yeah.
maybe fun someday.
Yeah.
When
absolutely.
the kids are off to college.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, you mentioned engineering school. I realized I didn't ask about your education. Did you get an undergrad in engineering or a master's in engineering and architecture or something?
Bachelor.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
And is that, sorry, did you study in Norway or abroad?
Yeah.
What school, if you don't mind my asking, just curious.
So what's it called? It's called Høgskole i Østfold.
Got it. I can see why you didn't say that the first time. I will not attempt to repeat it.
It even has a letter you don't have in English, which is the letter Ø. So
we should really have an Ø.
Yeah.
One of the main complaints we get about our language. So is the ring the big one that comes to mind? Is there anything else in the sort of historical archive that you think about sometimes?
Well, there's also but that's kind of a small and weird story, I guess. But I think it's a funny story. It's just a person, so you have to take it at face value. It was this guy who just he was traveling in his car, and when he came home, his wife, she said he was not the same. He seemed very troubled. So anyway, he was driving his car, and he went out to deliver something to the store. He was like having some I don't know, packages or whatever to a store, and then he just bumped into what appears to be two aliens. And it was kind of funny because he just bumped into, and he was walking around, and he said, and all of a sudden I was standing 2 feet or 2 meters from this being with a huge head and huge eyes and whatever. And and that was it. And they looked at each other, and creature turned around like 90 degrees and started walking towards this craft. And in this craft there was another one. And he said, it was the eeriest feeling, because when I looked at them, they both turned their head and looked at them exactly the same time.
Mm.
And it took off, and it flew off. And you know, you don't get a lot of Norwegians telling these kinds of stories. This is like very rare.
Mm.
So is it true? Is it not true? I don't know. But it was just funny. You know, you don't hear a lot of stories where I just bumped into some kind of alien. Yeah.
I was at the grocery store and I'm mad alien.
Bumped into,
Wow.
that's a funny story. And then of course you have the more serious stories. Well, you have there were some mysterious lights, and it was interesting because the people in this flight who saw these mysterious lights were actually from a NATO standing group. So there were some high ranking officers in this plane who saw lights they could not explain. But of course, we don't know who the people are. But there was the pilot on the plane who was telling his story, how they saw a large luminous orb from behind came up and it kept pace with the aircraft, and all of these military folks from the NATO saw it. But you know, that's it. You just have the pilot's story, and then kind of the trail stops there.
And can you give me a time print on those two stories, roughly, like a decade?
Yeah, it's in 1960, and
that's the plane one, the luminous orb.
Yeah, that's the plane one.
Okay.
Whereas the other one was
the alien grocery encounter.
No, I haven't written it down actually. Yeah, probably, but I think like probably 80s. Yeah.
Interesting. It kind of rings a small bell with a couple of the Jacques Vallée stories. It seems like pairs are a relatively common occurrence in some of these reports. Like 2 is a pretty common number.
Yeah.
I think the Ronnie Zamora case, the Zamora case in America, I believe, featured 2 beings, and there's a really delightful one in Passport to Magonia where they cook up some pancakes, like some little corn cakes, and they give the farmer one. Have you ever encountered that story?
Yeah, I think I've heard of it. Yeah, I think.
That's a delightful one. I enjoy. That's a good one to share with people who don't really want to hear UFO stories, because it's fun for everybody. And I think the farmer ate one of these cakes, and then he took the other one in to some local scientists for investigation, or to the police, and they wrote up a report that said, as far as we know, this farmer is a person of sound mind and a pillar of the community, but this is a normal corn cake.
And of course, you have another one that's interesting. There's this major working also in the military. He was a radar operator, and there's this long segment in the newspaper where he talks about all the observations that he had on radar in the 50s.
Okay.
And he said we could not explain them. They just popped up and then they flew off. You know, like we hear now. And every time he sent up jets, they would go away. You know, and then when they put the radar on it, they would just poof and just. So that's very interesting. And also, he said at one time they stopped sending up jets because they couldn't find them anyway. So they stopped. You know, they didn't want to spend all that money. Sure. But one time they did send up one more. And this pilot actually saw a huge red ball. But what they said, the pilot was a fearless fellow, it says in the newspaper. So he said he would just fly through it, and he did. Whoa. He flew through the fighter towards the red ball, and the moment he touched it, it disappeared. It also disappeared from radar. And when he landed, the whole plane, except from the plexiglass, was colored red. The plane was dismantled, and the plates were sent to the most famous universities and research stations around the world, but no one was able to identify the dye.
Wow.
So that was interesting to find those, tests, but yeah, it's a long time ago.
Fascinating one. Yeah, I've never heard. Did you say 50s on that one?
So it's a long time ago, but it would be
really
interesting
fun.
to find it. Yeah.
Wow, cool. Just the idea that it would stay red is extremely head scratching and fascinating. Also, yeah, props to this adventurous fellow who flew through a UFO.
Yeah.
Thought, let's see what will happen. Wow, that's thank you very much. Those are all really cool, and I hadn't heard them before. And I guess I thought I'd maybe click out now another level and just ask, as you've gotten into this over the last couple of years, done some research, fielded incoming reports, have you formed a general impression of the overall UAP Enigma, and how do you think about it now?
Mm. Well, I like to say that there's only one thing that I'm 100% certain of, and that is the fact that someone has this extraordinary technology that I would like to use myself, or just harness the technology. Someone has it, and it's just right in front of us, out of reach. Can I say with 100% confidence that it is aliens who has this technology? I cannot. However, I would say that the evidence really gravitates towards that option, but I cannot say it 100%. There is still a small percentage that this is some very secret tech from, I don't know, is it in the US? Is it like, I don't think Russia, not North Korea, but some private actor, I don't know. I'm keeping that option still open, but someone has this technology, and it's highly likely, most likely, that it is an extraterrestrial presence that has this technology, although I cannot say with 100%. And what is important for me, and why I'm so interested in this, is because I want to use this technology in a good way. I mean, it's fascinating, it's interesting, I will not deny it. It's fascinating, interesting to think about aliens and, you know, all the things that you could learn. I mean, cultural, language, it's really exciting stuff. However, what is most important for me is trying to get this technology to work, you know, trying to help this so we can have a better and cleaner world, so we can get off oil and gas. We have a lot of oil and gas in Norway, so it's kind of blasphemy to say it, but we know it's no point if Norway is clean if the rest of the world is dirty and polluted. So, you know, we're one planet. So that's what kind of drives me to get this technology and to make it to help this process of getting clean energy. Of course, I don't know that we can actually use it. It is a, you know, I don't really know that. I can't say that with 100%, but I'm hoping. And of course, if we never find out, we'll never find out. When we have to, you know, how does this work? Can it be used for weapons? Of course it can, you know, but everything can be used for weapons. So it's a really complicated process. How are you gonna? It's not an easy thing at all. I mean, it's not just, oh, you know, UFOs are there. Oh, it's extraterrestrial. We can use this technology. Oh, it's great. No, it's really difficult. It's a lot of process, a lot of cooperation and coordination, a lot of, you know, countries, and it's not an easy task. But you know, we can't just ignore it either way. You know, it's going to be difficult, but you can't ignore it. So, but I would want that technology. And when I've traveled to America, I've been on the plane, I'm sitting there on that plane and looking at 9 hours left, and I'm like, if I could just be in a UFO, I would probably be there in 20 minutes. Kind of frustrating, you know. I mean, all those possibilities that you could have if you use this technology, even if not, like I work in construction. So I'm looking at the scaffolder, you know, building scaffoldings to do this tiny job, or we're doing this lift, and I'm like, if you could just have some UAP technology, just kind of swim around with anti-gravity, it would be so much better.
Yeah.
I kind of see all those possibilities of how we could utilize this technology in our daily world. Again, it's not an easy fix, and you can't just go like this and then we can use it. It's a long process, but you got to start, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, that kind of drives me, and that's what I think. I think most likely it is a non-human intelligence presence, but I cannot say with 100%. And then there are, of course, people who talk about other things. You know, they talk about interdimensional, they talk about terra-dimensional or time travel. And I'm not saying, you know, I have the answer, so I can say, no, you're all wrong. However, I like to say extraterrestrial because we know it's kind of, you gotta keep it simple and stupid, as we sometimes say in the military, because if you want people engaged in this topic, this is what you say. I mean, you can't just go out and go like, you know, time travels, people have lived inside the earth, or they're time travelers. I'm not saying it's, dumb. I'm not saying that I know all the things, but I like to keep it simple because we know we can travel from one star to another. We know this is possible. We do not know that we can travel in time. We do not know that we can travel in dimensions.
Mm-hmm.
So just trying to keep it like a low key on the first step. And
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a lot of interesting ideas and philosophies, and you can think about, you can go further and further and further, and all down the road, you're sitting there, are we a computer, program? I mean, you can have all these thoughts and think and have philosophical thoughts about it, but after a while, I get a little bit tired about that. I want some action. I want something tangible. I want something to happen. It's nice to have these ideas and think about it, but we need to come closer to actually finding out what the truth is. Yeah.
That was a really great overview. Just to click in on how it feels to reach that point, it seems to me like whether we know or not, just moving from thinking that this is a fun sci-fi idea to thinking like there's a real chance that there's a non-human intelligence operating high technology around Earth, there's a pretty big intellectual and emotional shift involved in making that transition. And so I like to ask people who are thinking about it, just how are you feeling about that?
Well, it's I don't know, I'm kind of on the fence because it is exciting, but it is also scary, because it's easy when you're in this UFO bubble, you're in this, everyone that you talk to knows about this, and people throw out, catastrophic disclosure and all that kind of stuff. And then I kind of look at my kids and other, people, and I go like, they don't know. It's not that simple where you can just throw out things and everything's going to be okay. You might actually get a lot of chaos for some short period of time. I'm not saying chaos in the fact that it will be war or civil war or complete chaos, but you got to respect the fact that people don't know about this, and you can't just say, throw it all out there. It's the process. You got to be smart about it. I'm thinking about, myself. I'm going, oh, okay, it's not a big deal for me because I think I can handle this pretty well. But I still got to tell my kids, what this is. And then they look at other adults that are freaking out. You just don't know how this is gonna play its way out. So I'm thinking, I want to know the truth. We need to know the truth. I want this technology to better the world, but we have to do it in a smart way. We can't just throw everything out there because there are a lot of people in this world who will not take it very well, I think. And we need to, respect that. So I'm kind of excited about it, a little bit scared, a little bit, because you have to also kind of, I do work in the military, so I do also kind of have that threat narrative in my mind naturally. Then again, have they been here for like 80 years? I'm not that worried, I'm not that worried. However, then you get into the philosophical questions. Are they good? Are they bad? Are they somewhere in between? What are we? Are we good? Are we bad? How do they perceive themselves? How do we perceive them? What we look as upon, good or necessary, we might think of as evil. So there's very complex and interesting thoughts and ideas here. And, when someone is there, but they're hiding, right? If this is the truth, then it is a red flag. I mean, you need to admit that someone's there, but they're not showing themselves. Then you got to ask, why not? Is it because it's good for them? Is it good for us? What does it mean? So this is a red flag. Now, I'm not saying let's go to war and all that kind of stuff. No, not at all. But we gotta, it's diplomacy. Countries around the world, we all have this diplomacy, politics going back and forth. People who are not enemies, but they cooperate. But at the same time, they have spies either way. So all these kinds of things are things that's going to impact and have an influence on how this transition, and it's very complicated. And if what if abductions really happen? I mean, that's not okay. I mean, this is, how do you go out and say, there are aliens here, and by the way, they can abduct you and take you away at night. So yeah, good luck with that, and have a nice day. It's different. But then again, you also have to think about what are the chances of this happening. So you also got to keep it like real. You got to keep it normal. I mean, the biggest risk for me is going out in traffic, right? Because I could get hit by a bus or I've actually been hit by a car twice. So
No.
these are the real risks in life.
Sure.
There are a lot more risks of something happening to me, some person from prison coming out, and actually being abducted. But you still got to tell people this. You don't be scared, but there's still a chance. So it's really complicated. And what do? You say, oh, let's go to war. They've abducted some people. And then you say, well, look at yourself. Look at the human race. What do we do to ourselves? I mean, are we really that nice? You got to have smart leaders in a process like this. You got to have the right people to do the right job. It's crucial.
Yeah, I think a point you made there also kind of goes to the subject of democracy, because you mentioned diplomacy and maybe some military actions. If we are, as a people, going to take some steps like this, it would fit the moral architecture we've built so far to do that democratically, to collectively decide how to engage. And we can't do that if we're still having this conversation in secret and around the edges and with big question marks and whispers. So that's yet another reason to talk about this more openly and try to make some collective action on it.
Absolutely.
You mentioned your kids. How do you talk to your kids about this, and how are they taking it if you are?
I don't say anything to them because they're too small. However, the oldest one, he's 9. So when I say I got to go to a meeting, oh, okay, what you doing? And I don't lie. I say, I'm going to a UFO meeting. I say, oh, cool. So, but he's convinced though that the aliens do not exist because his best friend says so. So
Okay.
not that difficult. But I'm trying to. I just. They have seen, the UFO magazines that that the organization has, so they've seen it, so they know I'm interested.
Okay.
I tell them it's good to be interested, and I actually tell them that I don't really know for sure what it is, and so I keep I'm not 100% honest with them, and I do not tell them anything about abductions or anything like that. There's no point. Why would I scare them? So I say very little, and if they ask, I try to be as honest as I can, but with an adult mind to what I say. And
That
also,
makes sense.
you don't really want your kids going around talking about it either, because and then they say something, and then the parents go like, "Oh, wow, what's going on over that house?"
Yeah.
But just keep it low.
That's interesting, because it sounds so similar to the broader conversation about how we talk to everybody about this. Maybe don't scare them with the complicated, scary stuff, but try to be honest when people ask, and how do we have a healthier conversation together? It's tough. And picking up on that thread a little bit, I think I heard you say you went to a Seoul Foundation conference, and I was wondering what that was like, and what your experience has been talking to scientists about this, because I think they have a sort of a special version of this problem where you don't want other people talking about you and saying what's going on over there. That's like that. I think scientists feel that especially keenly because their reputations are so important, and their intellectual rigor is so important. And so it seems like some of them are sort of nervous to encounter this subject, but many of them are starting to get really curious. And I was just wondering if you had any insight on scientific behavior, or how you think the scientific world is handling this.
Well, the only scientist that I have talked to about this has been around Seoul or other communications applications. So I haven't really talked to anyone who's very skeptical, because I haven't, seen them in this topic. We have had some ideas about actually reaching out to some scientists in Norway through our organization to get see what they think, and how maybe they can contribute. Maybe they can have a what do you call it, like a subject or something in Norway. So that's something that we're going to look into. And I think, well, people are scared about their reputation. It just, that's how the world works, I guess. And especially, I guess, scientists. I don't really know how scientists work, but they have to get funding, and they have to, I guess, maybe the reputation is more important, I guess, sometimes, because they need this funding, and I don't know, people don't take you serious. If people don't take you seriously as a scientist, that must be very, that must be crucial. Or I can understand that people don't want it, but on the other hand, you're supposed to be curious when you're a scientist. So that's what you're supposed to be. So it's a shame that not more people are interested in this. It's yeah. So if I was a scientist, I would absolutely be interested in it. And of course, you have Beatrice, who is Swedish. She's a scientist. So yeah, it's really great work that she's doing. She's, yeah, I'm really cheering for her. She's, yeah, doing great
Beatrice
work.
Villarroel. I'm sorry.
Even for me, it's difficult to pronounce her last name. I don't think it's Swedish originally. I'm not sure, but Beatrice is very easy to pronounce.
Does it have an in it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's interesting that there are scientists focused on the lights out there, and it seems like you're in an area of the world that gets outsized attention scientifically. So I hope you have a chance to talk to more of them and bring them into your work a little bit.
Yeah, definitely should try that. Yeah. Again, there is a lot of stigma in Norway, so it's going to be really hard to actually accomplish that. But nothing's impossible. You just need a lot of time and money, which I have none. But it's
step by step. And picking up off of that, I was wondering, do you have any advice for people who are getting into this subject and starting to talk about it with their friends about how to encounter it intellectually, or about how to conduct themselves in public discourse?
Yeah, I think that we need to, like I said earlier, we need to focus on the things that we know. We need to focus on the credible witnesses, and we need to keep it low key. Try to keep, try the nuts and bolts and stay there. I guess if you want people to be engaged in this, you have to talk to people in a way that they can understand. Now, you might be very seasoned in this topic, and you can talk about future humans, you can talk about conscience, and you can talk about talking, I don't know, getting some kind of connection spiritually and all that kind of stuff, and that's fine. But if you want more people engaged in the topic, just stay with the nuts and bolts and stay with the pilots, what they see and what credible people have seen and credible people have said. Just keep it there. That's my advice, I guess. And yeah, because the more far out you reach, the less people you will attract, I guess. But then again, there's nothing wrong with being philosophical and having a lot of ideas and going into this topic. And sometimes I think people who are in this topic are maybe open-minded as a default, kind of from basic. They're open-minded and they go into this. And sometimes I think maybe some people kind of can't stop. They're so want to accommodate or please everyone that they kind of agree with everyone, and that everything is okay. And I'm thinking, well, maybe that's not so. You know what I'm saying? We should be able to disagree and keep it civil, and say, I'm really interested in this topic, but I don't want. I disagree about future humans. Right? I disagree completely with that. But then it seems like a lot of people are so interested, and so it's so important for them to be open-minded and kind of be nice to people, and because we're in this topic together. And then they say, oh yeah, maybe it can be future humans. Maybe we can make it. Maybe it can be this. So sometimes I think just, have your own opinion and maybe say, no, I don't think so. We don't have to agree on everything all the time, even though we're, a team in this effort or in this topic. Maybe sometimes we're allowed to say, no, I disagree with that. I can't prove it, but I disagree with that. And that's fine. Let's agree to disagree. I like to do that.
Well, I've mentioned this to you offline, but you are one of the most agreeable people engaging with the subject online, and I would recommend that people follow Renate on X and pick up on her social cues because you lead very gracefully and with kindness first, I think, and that's a good way to approach any topic, I think, honestly, but especially a thorny and controversial one like this. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
And finally, as a fun little bit of an outro, I thought I'd ask, if we think NHI might be real, if non-human intelligence might be real, and if we can figure out, which is a big question mark, but if we can figure out how to communicate with them, what do you think we should say?
Why have you been keeping in the dark for so long?
Mm.
Yeah. I don't know, but maybe it's a bit. Well, there's so many questions you can ask, but I guess I would want to ask with, why have you not introduced yourself earlier? Why have you been hiding and keeping, it might be a very good reason. What do I know? I mean, could be maybe they did this some other time and this, this other civilization didn't respond very well to it. Who knows? It could be a good answer.
Mm-hmm.
It could also be not a good answer. And I would ask, what's your interest in us? Why are we, I guess, maybe just curiosity, but yeah, and yeah, good question.
How does your technology work? And can
Of
we have
course,
it, please?
that's yes, absolutely given. Yes, please give us the technology.
Interesting.
Yeah. And of course, have you been here? How long have you been here? I mean, has it been since the 40s or has it been, earlier? And also very important, if they've been here earlier, have they influenced us in some way?
Mm-hmm.
Have they not? This is that's interesting to know. And also, what now that we know, what's your plan for us? I mean, what would you want us to do? I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to do what they want, but what would they want? What would their like kind of goal for us be for us?
Yeah, and maybe along these lines, do you all get along? Something like that. I would be pretty curious about that. Is there a unified front here, or are we looking at political divisions of different organizations?
And also, the questions, the answers that you get, are they true? Are they half truths? Right?
Mm-hmm.
If you ask another country about something that you might even cooperate with, you might not, get a 80% truthful answer. And so you also got to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
No one's here to say that they're honest. They'll keep their own interests in mind, and we will keep our interests in mind. And then we have to try it somehow it's like we do with other countries, diplomacy, cooperation. Yeah.
And it might be like our relationship with AI soon when we ask it and we don't know why exactly it came up with the answer that it did. All we know is what it told us. That's a really good point. And I like the analogy to other countries and just trying to put sort of a truth probability on individual claims or a percentage likelihood of accuracy and honesty. Does this interest you at all as a potential field in the next 5 years, like the attempt to communicate with these potential intelligences?
Well, that's a job I could never have, but if I was offered one, I would of course say yes.
Okay.
But I wouldn't have to. I wouldn't. Yeah, never mind. Yeah, I'm not going to say that. But absolutely, that would be really interesting. It would be, as a project manager, it would be really cool to work, with this project. Be a part of it. There's going to be a lot of smart people involved in this. When that happens, it's going to be really interesting to watch.
I agree.
Hopefully, I will get to experience that. I think I will. I think so.
I think you're here at a good time, and you're in a leadership position at a good moment in history. And I would love to connect again with you sometime if you feel like it in a year or two. If the ball has moved down the field, maybe we can compare notes on how we think things have evolved. That sounds good to you.
Yeah, great.
Okay, thank you. So on our way out, would you just like to tell people where they should engage with you online if you would like people to do that?
Yeah, I think the best place is on X. Yeah, because on Facebook it's the Norwegian page. We speak Norwegian, so yeah, it would be on X where I have their name Renate / _ FE. Yeah, that's all.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing your time with us this evening, and we wish you great success in the next year. And we look forward to translating your website with Google, and maybe a couple people will order your magazine. So congratulations on your leadership role this year, and thank you for talking with us.
My pleasure. Bye.